Hey everybody, what's good? This is Trip. December 3rd, 2025, just going on another desert walk. And a thought kind of occurred to me just now, I am seeing on the internet among like a lot of different like conservative types, and maybe like just to take the political targeting out of it a little bit, like it's not always conservatives, but it very often is. But I'm seeing a lot of people these days, and it's always been a thing, but it seems to be increasing, this thing of people saying, you need Jesus, in response to somebody who appears to be like in a bad situation in one way or another. Sometimes it's of their own doing, like they're criminals who just got caught for like a really egregious and sometimes egregious and simultaneously stupid offense, like those programs you see back in like the old days, like the golden oldie the golden oldie days in the 90s, and where you've got world's dumbest criminals and stuff like that, people throwing cinder blocks at like plexiglass windows of a bank and it bouncing right off of them and breaking their ribs, knocking them down, and guaranteeing that after the hospital they're gonna call jail their home. But I'm digressing a little bit. Again, though, to situations like these, the response is often, you need Jesus, and you get a lot of thumbs up in response. The irritating thing about that, when I see that kind of thing, is, well, it's a number of irritating things. For starters, it reminds me of the people that do the thing where they have the little hand emoji, the hands together emoji, and they're saying praying, and every time I see that, I think to myself, I would be willing to wager dollars to donuts that these people are not doing anything to help anybody like that. It's like a form of almost like gawking or some shit like that. And I kind of doubt that they're even praying for the person anyway. But the whole thing of like, the whole like phrase, excuse me, you need Jesus. So the problem is with that, like when I hear that, it's super annoying, because for starters, whenever somebody says that, they're always incredibly insensitive and not understanding. Hi, how's it going? They're always like incredibly insensitive and lacking understanding as to what the situation the person is going through. Sometimes the person they're commenting about is homeless. Sometimes the person they're commenting about, like the situation we're seeing, they're scrambling to figure out how to make ends meet because they, had their, in November, back in November, they had their EBT cut off. And yes, you could try to make this argument about like how they shouldn't have been on it in the first place, and it's government dependence and all this stuff. And okay, and we can have that political argument, but that does not alleviate their situation right now. And getting Jesus in their life is not going to fix, saying that, it's not going to fix their problem right now. Look, I'm not some kind of like anti-religious guy. I'm not an agnostic or an atheist, or like, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic. I'm a person of faith. But I'm also practical. I'm also a realist, and I do see a world in front of me where God, for reasons we don't fully understand, requires us to work within a very temporal environment with temporal cause and effect and temporal consequences, and where things more or less run their course. Miracles seem to be very few and far between, right? And telling somebody they need Jesus, it seems to imply that like they can just look at themselves and say, well, God, why didn't you just say that? Why didn't somebody just tell me that earlier? All I needed was Jesus. Like, And now that I've got him, I've got that food and I've got the funds I need to put food on the table. Now that I've got him, I have a place to live now. All my problems are gone, and it's now I know like consciously nobody's dumb enough to actually believe that everything would fall into place like that so easily, but there is this unconscious way of thinking that involves. And then another thing is that the people that say that, they are incredibly self-righteous. So it's like, okay, well, I assume then that you have Jesus. I assume that you see yourself to be very with it, that you see yourself to be you have all your ducks in a row, right? Am I correct? That's another thing that I can't stand about political conservatives. Having been one myself in the past, they all seem to think that they are always right. And they all seem to think that everything they don't like in the world is like a consequence of people not listening to them. So with this whole thing, and then another thing with it, telling people they need Jesus and then leaving it at that, it gives people the excuse to pardon the system, this broken system that we're living in, where nobody's happy, nobody feels like, and I'm using that loosely, most people are not happy. Most people don't feel like they're getting ahead in it, or even like maintaining stability. It gives people the excuse to think that leaving things as is okay. That there's no systemic fixing that's required. There's no policies that we need to address. There's no, serious voting efforts we need to do so that we get something better in our leadership than what we have now. Nope. Just a bunch of troubled people in the world that need Jesus. As soon as they get that, all is going to be well and good. No, it's these people. Maybe these people need Jesus in their lives, but these people need good policies and leadership that actually like gives a damn about the country and gives a damn about the world and human well-being. I mean, my God, Jesus himself had a lot to say about the liabilities and the evil that can come from people selfishly pursuing extreme wealth at the expense of others. And then apart from the words in the gospel, the New Testament has an awful lot to say about that. Now, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a biblical expert. But there is a verse in the New Testament that says that oppression of the rich against the poor constitutes sin that cries out to the heavens for vengeance. Pretty cut and cleared, and I don't recall there being a part in the Gospels where Jesus approached a lowly person, a beggar, a lame, a blind person, and walked up to them and said, well, you need me, and then just walked off. No, he did something to alleviate their situation with his message, with his cautionary tales, with his, with all the, what would you call it? Help me out here. The coffee hasn't kicked in yet. With all the, the spiritual cautionary tales and the spiritual rebukes, because make no mistake, Jesus wasn't all like, I bring you peace, I bring you flowers, I bring you the soft, fluffy stuff. No, he was quite firm and harsh at times with his message, controversy-inducing for sure. But the whole point of this little morning rant is that phrase is something that people should really examine and frankly just get rid of. It has no place outside of comical use in like a Tyler Perry film or something like that. This whole thing, of condescending on people, laughing at them, joking about them, talking about how much they need Jesus, or saying thoughts and prayers. Is it working? Is it working? Does everything seem like it's getting better? Do the problems in society look like they're getting better? Even if you're a hardcore Trump supporter that seems to have this idea that that Trump is dramatically improving the country and things have never looked more optimistic, things have never looked better, you know, and it's really only like the administration that actually says this. I don't think they actually believe it. Only those people think that even among those people that are lying to themselves and saying that it's all getting better, you still look around and you still see that we have a crime problem in our major cities. You still see that that we have an encroaching homelessness problem. We have this situation in many urban areas and even suburban areas where you've got a bunch of homeless people and nobody in municipal politics is addressing how to actually, you know, create a situation for them that's like tolerable. Everybody just talks about where they're going to sweep them out of the way because everybody's like, you know, well, not in my backyard. Not in my backyard. They need Jesus. They don't need help. But you see where I'm going with this. It's about the attitudes, incredibly condescending attitudes coming out of people that claim to be compassionate, righteous people of God. Well, as bad as it is, we know that none of this is new. That's my 2 cents. This is Trip signing off.